Angel's Envy's Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Which is better? There's much to love about bourbons, and when it comes to innovation, sophisticated bourbons like Angel's Envy and Buffalo Trace have come on top of the list for years. These two bourbon brands are sometimes hard to find because of the high demand for their products. Here's our take on Angel's Envy vs Buffalo Trace's notable differences. Keep watching to know which comes out as the better bourbon. Notable differences. History. Angel's Envy launched in 2011 as a one-bottle brand, but the idea was started by the visionary Lincoln Henderson, an ex-Brown-Forman master distiller, with his son Wes Henderson in 2006. Its name originated from the Angel's share, the amount of spirit that evaporated after aging. Meanwhile, Buffalo Trace was introduced in 1999, but originated from a historical distillery in the late 1700s. Its flagship was a tribute to the buffalo that carved its trail to the Kentucky River. Production and distillation. Both bourbons undergo a fermentation process before it is distilled. Angel's Envy bourbon is distilled twice, in a column still and then in a pot still doubler. It has an additional procedure to blend its bourbon and finish it in another port wine barrel. On the other hand, Buffalo Trace uses a combination of pot, still, and column still to distill its bourbon, but it doesn't have an additional finishing barrel procedure. Maturation. Angel's Envy doesn't carry an age statement, but it's typically aged between 4 to 6 years in new charred American white oak barrels. It uses a double maturation, with up to 6 months additional maturation in port wine barrels, and is bottled at 86.6 proof. But unlike Angel's Envy, Buffalo Trace doesn't use double maturation. Buffalo Trace doesn't have an age statement too, but it's still a bourbon aged at least 2 years in new American oak barrels and bottled at 90 proof. Mash bill. Angel's Envy has a very traditional mash bill content: 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley, similar to Old Forester and Woodford Reserve. On the other hand, Buffalo Trace Kentucky Straight Bourbon uses its mash bill number 1. It doesn't have the exact content, but mash bill number 1 is known to have low rye content of 10% or less. Tasting notes. Angel's Envy. Palate. Smoky notes up front with a soft mouthfeel, followed by remarkable ripe fruit, vanilla, dark chocolate, and caramel. Nose. Opens up with subtle vanilla with maple syrup, raisins, and some toasted nuts. Color. It has a gold color with reddish amber hues. Finish. Clean and smooth medium finish, with lingering sweet chocolate and finishes with Madeira hints. Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Palate. It has sweet and mellow notes of brown sugar and soft spice with oak, toffee, and anise. Nose. Complex aroma of sweet notes, vanilla, and caramel with spice and mint hints. Color. It has a dark amber color. Finish. Warm medium finish with deep and lingering notes of oak, vanilla, and subtle spice. Ownership and distillery. Both brands were born and distilled in Kentucky. Bacardi Limited owns Angel's Envy, but Louisville Distilling Company produces it in their urban distillery in Louisville, Kentucky. Meanwhile, Sazerac Company owns Buffalo Trace. It is produced in the oldest working distillery in the U.S., the Buffalo Trace Distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky. Price point. Angel's Envy Kentucky Straight Bourbons finished in port wine barrels are more expensive than Buffalo Trace Kentucky Straight Bourbons. A 750 ml Buffalo Trace bourbon bottle costs around $34 drizzly, while a 750 ml Angel's Envy costs around $54 drizzly. Mouthfeel and flavor-wise, Angel's Envy won the spot. It has a softer mouthfeel, a smoother and sweet nuanced flavor than Buffalo Trace's smooth, rich, bolder flavor. However, Buffalo Trace got the spot for having a better price point. Angel's Envy is not a budget bourbon and is more expensive than a bottle of Buffalo Trace. The distinctive, nuanced flavors of Angel's Envy are worth the try. But if you're on a tight budget, go for a bottle of Buffalo Trace. If you like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.